Every week we do a Q&A with interesting and accomplished members of the adaptive community to find how they persevered, how they innovated, how they built communities, and how they found solutions. Welcome to the Nametags Chat Podcast.
Welcome to the Nametags Chat Podcast. Today we have Andrew Kurka, who is the reigning gold medalist in the downhill in the sitting classification at the Paralympics. He is headed to the Paralympics again. He was also a silver medalist from 2018 in PyeongChang. Looking forward to some great results, but just had a big crash in training. Andrew, how are you doing?
Doing well, Chris. Getting better every day. Leaps and bounds better. It seems like hour to hour, so that's good. I have no doubt I'll be ready for the games at this rate.
Because some of that's scary, right? You said you broke your nose and you had a concussion. How is the concussion? Because that's the unpredictable one, right?
Yeah, the concussion is the unpredictable one, especially since I've had them before. And I didn't just break my nose, I also cracked my nose into my cheek, like a little over an inch worth of a fracture just from where my nose is into my cheek, to give you an idea of just how hard I hit my face on the snow.
Broke your nose into your cheek, so you literally were like moving the bone of your nose over onto a side of your face. Is this what's happening?
I don't really know. What happened was I hit my face so hard flat on the snow that it cracked my cheek. And it cracked it from, the hole of where your nose is. It cracked it into my cheek just under my right eye. So that's what happened. And like I was telling you, like before we started this, like it was just kind of a freak accident. My binding came undone. Unlike we've ever seen it come undone before. It came undone like horizontally, and the tip of my foot just dug straight into the snow and it slingshotted me. Very, very similar to, I think, like how Tyler Walker's crash in Sochi was. Yeah, except for I wasn't up in the air and then caught the tip of my ski. It was just the base of my mono, and then it flung me straight forward onto my face. I did black out, but I kept sensational consciousness, at least. Like I could still feel myself moving as I tumbled and slid down the snow, but I couldn't see anything for a little while.
Wow. And so by the tip of your boot, what you're saying is that's the boot that's in your monoski. So the piece that clicks into the binding, right? That's what you mean by the boot?
Yeah, exactly. So I just came out horizontally and it hooked the snow at 60 miles an hour or whatever I was traveling. It was downhill. So I was traveling pretty quick. It just came out and without warning caught it and flung me. I didn't even have time to protect myself.
So stops you abruptly and then suddenly you're catapulting in the air like Tyler did. Wow. That sounds like every monoskier's worst fear, Andrew.
It sucks. I mean, I don't know if it's my worst fear, but it hurts. The worst part of it was just that I didn't have any warning, and to end up hurt without any warning sucks. Tyler didn't have memory of his accident. I think lacking memory is worse than what happened to me, for sure. I would rather what happened to me than lacking memory. At least I know what happened. I remember the sensation of what happened. I can remember and feel what happened. I can recall what happened. It's just really unfortunate the way that it happened.
Have you been back on snow? Because this happened, 5 days ago?
I have not been back on snow.
Okay.
I will not get back on snow until Just prior to the games, probably when I arrive in China. I think I just now am able to fully pass concussion protocol. I passed my SCAT tests the day after. I actually passed my SCAT tests the day of. So my cognitive function was not impaired by any means. But
can you tell people what SCAT test is?
Yeah, well, SCAT test is essentially a cognitive test to show that your brain is still in functioning order. So they do a series of memory tests and then a series of verbal commands and psychological tests. Like they make you say your months backwards. They give you 10 different numbers. They give it to you in forward order, and you have to repeat them backwards in the correct order. You have to remember 10 words, and that's basically it. So it's just it's a cognitive test to show that you're still fully mentally capable. And I've never lost my mental capabilities, so that was good. That shows that I didn't have like extensive bruising or damage to my brain, but I did have fogginess and a headache and a pretty broken nose and stuff like that.
Wow. Okay. So you passed the SCAT test right afterwards, you said. So there's no cognitive issue, but then you still just passed the concussion protocol though? Just now?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Wow.
So like a concussion protocol is based off of a series of numbers, 1 through 5, based off of your general sensations. So do you still have a headache? Is light still bright? Do you have memory decline? Are there other issues? So there's 15 different questions that you all rate 1 through 5. And depending on how those rate is depending on whether you can start being active or get back to moving again. I think there's 10 questions all rated at 5 or something like that. And you can't have more than a 10 out of 50.
So one is no problem and 5 is a big problem.
0 is no problem.
0 is no. Oh, I thought you said it was rating 1 to 5. Okay.
Yeah.
So 0 to 5.
Yeah, 0 to 5.
With the objective of actually 0, it means that you're totally fine.
Yeah, 0 means I don't have any issues. 1 means I have minimal issues or they're hardly even there. 5 means I don't want to get out of bed.
Okay. How are you feeling now, sort of in terms of mental framework, approaching the biggest race in 4 years kind of thing?
Mental framework's never really been much of a thing for me. It's always kind of go out there, do what I know how to do it to the best of my ability, and see what comes of it. And that's where I'm sitting right now. I mean, currently I've had, it seems like disadvantage after disadvantage going into these games, which is really unfortunate, but I still have a chance of winning and I still have a chance of gold. And podiuming is definitely very there for me. Like I'm without a doubt one of the best in the world. The gold medal will happen if I don't make any major mistakes. It's just the chances of making a mistake increases with injury like this and with disadvantage, the disadvantages that are placed on me, not competing in downhill in 2 years, things of that nature. I have competed in more downhill this season or trained more downhill this season than I have in 4 years. So as far as that's concerned, I feel like I'm ready, and from what I've seen, and from what I've heard, the course in Beijing seems pretty prime. So that's exciting. Prime courses with those type of conditions tend to do really well for me.
Very good. Well, so because you were saying at World Championships, after the downhill and the Super G, and then winning the Super G portion of the Super Combined, that this was a really good start for you. You know, and you're talking about these things that have gone wrong. Do you still feel like you have that momentum, or can recreate that momentum as you get to Beijing?
Oof, it feels 50-50 right now. Just because all of my opponents are training these 2 weeks leading into the games and I'm not, because my face is broken. So there's a fine line. There's a fine line there. And I'm definitely writing it, and I'm going to see what it is that comes. And, worst case scenario, it just makes it more exciting, because going into PyeongChang, I was a heavy favorite for the downhill, and to win the downhill by 1.6 seconds was substantial. And that was just a dream come true. And then going into this games, it might be a little bit tighter because of the disadvantages that have been placed on me. And you know what? That's okay. It makes it more exciting. And I would rather a hard-earned silver medal than an easy-earned gold any day of the week.
Right. Exactly. Harder earned silver medal. So what's, because I mean, I've watched you, and one of the things is like, how to ski. You're not going to forget how to ski, but sometimes it's like we need that sort of daily reminder, and the training and getting there incrementally, but to get there and know that you can do what you've said you can do, or that you've always done. In some ways, that's the challenge always for a big event, is like, okay, let's let the body take over and do what it's supposed to do, as opposed to doing all this thinking. Do you have any kind of strategies to help yourself do that, as opposed to, the brain taking over, going, oh, it doesn't feel quite right, or this or that, or I need to think about this? Or how do you handle that kind of pressure?
I think I focus on the things that I need to do, and that's it. Mm-hmm. So it's the same reason that people consider me fearless, or the same reason that people say that I'm dangerous, or, whatever it is. It's because when I push out the start gate, I focus on the things that I need to do, the things that involve success, and that's it. When you start a work project, let's say you start to build garden beds. Halfway through, you don't say, oh man, in the midst of building these garden beds, this is harder. I'm not going to be able to do this if I don't follow the instructions. Oh, wow, this isn't tough. I can't complete this. It's the same way in my mind. When I go out there and I'm competing and I'm racing down a race course, I just follow the instructions. I follow what I need to do. I follow what my coaches tell me to do, and I take depending on how I'm feeling at the time, either the safer line or the faster line. And it also depends on the course and the conditions and things of that nature. And luckily, I have enough knowledge now in my back pocket to where I know when and where and how to pull it out.
Are there any things when you're competing that you think, I need to make sure that I do this? I need to make sure that I'm committed to this part of the technique, or this part of the tactics of competing?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time. Yeah, I'm all the time dedicated to certain intricacies that I need to do, and it's always my focus. Never stop learning is kind of one of my big things that I've learned throughout my career. Irony, and it's finest saying that, but I always want to learn. And so whenever I enter a race, there's always something that I focus on physically that I need to do. I call it a soft focus. And then there's a hard focus. So the hard focus is the thing that I need to make sure to do with my body. Then the soft focus are the different focuses that happen while in the course. I need to make sure I'm right here off this jump. I need to make sure that I have this certain direction coming around this turn. I need to make sure that I'm here in this area. And so I need to make sure that I'm in those different spots. Those are my soft focuses, and my hard focus is, maybe it's something as simple as maybe keep my shoulders in a certain position or flex my core a certain way or keep tip pressure,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Those are my hard focuses. So I have a hard focus, which I focus on for the entire time. Then I have a soft focus, which I focus on in the course. And I do the same thing when I'm doing my free runs. Unlike a lot of athletes, I do free runs constantly outside of the course prior to the run. I only show up probably 15, maybe 20 minutes before I run. That's because I'm doing my best to emulate the course in my head and in my body while doing free runs.
Mm-hmm. Just patterning that whole course in your body movements, but also in terms of how your mind is reacting to the turns that are coming up, and so that you don't really ultimately have to think about it. I've always thought that that's the objective: get in the course and get to a point where you don't really have to think about it. Is that the same objective for you?
Yes. For me, it's more like when it's coming at me, be as prepared and on top of it as possible. I think I definitely think about the course. I find for me personally, like when I was wrestling, instinctually, I would go out there and I would, let the moves and let everything flow instinctually. But for me, everything is a constant thought while I'm going down the course, actually.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's better for me to stay relaxed and have a constant method of thought. Because I think with inspection, I'm able to be like, okay, right here, right there, right here. And it makes things go slower in my mind. So, yeah, for me, that's my personal preference.
So for you, in some ways, it's almost like a checklist kind of thing.
Exactly.
Right here. Okay. Check. The next one. Okay. I'm at that jump. Okay. There's another check. Okay.
Exactly. But yeah, it's I've always been a goal oriented person, and I think setting those small goals and then achieving them one at a time, in a career, in a course, whatever it may be, that's just the way that I've found works best for me.
Perfect. That's great.
Yeah.
How is the new rig working? So you're in a Toyota rig, right? Which has nothing to do with the binding kind of issue that you just had.
Yeah, nothing to do with the binding issue. The binding issue was a marker issue. But in their defense, the binding was probably 15 years old.
Right.
So,
And that's a binding that, there are guys, Marcel Hirscher and Christopherson are on different equipment and have actually gotten permission to use marker binding. So it's one of the most highly sought after bindings out there. It sounds like this was a freak thing. And maybe if it was 15 years old, that might've been part of the problem too.
yeah, it definitely was a freak thing, and it might have been. So the rig is doing just fine. It's a Toyota rig. It's faster than any other rig I've ever skied before. And with that comes a method of control that I need to acquire and adapt to. So like I said before, it's a highly engineered new piece of sit ski equipment. It's more aerodynamic, faster, nicer than anything we've ever seen before. And the geometric shapes of it are literally built to accelerate you, not just with the ski and with gravity, but also with the compression of the shock and decompression of the shock systems. So for me, getting used to it, I'm still getting used to it on a daily basis. It's very fast.
How long have you been using it? Just this year?
Just this year. So, and it's a very comfortable rig. I was able to hop in it and start racing right away, but still the little differences and intricacies of it, I'm still learning. So yeah, so that's that. It's just kind of another one of those things that I'm learning on top of everything else. But like I definitely couldn't say no, because it's the fastest sit ski I've ever been in by far. You can literally feel yourself accelerate out of every turn when you compress it. It's unlike anything. It's hard to keep control of.
So you have the speed, and you just have to be able to rein in that speed or manage that speed so that you have the control. Is that what you're saying?
And that's exactly it. And that's kind of been the story throughout my entire career. And now it's just a little bit more than it was before.
Well, this is kind of you to a T, right? You've always had the speed. You just have to find the finish line in order to show the speed that you have.
Exactly. And so they threw the sit ski at me, and they were like, "Here, be faster." And I was like, "Oh, great. Let's do that now." But it's going really, really well. I don't know if you had a chance to watch me at World Championships and see how the rig performed, but the rig performed really well. I had some major mistakes in the downhill, which I still managed the bronze medal, and then I had a major mistake in the GS, and again still managed the bronze medal, and then I managed a silver medal just by ever so slight amount at the next World Cups. So I'm gradually increasing with my control and my speed of the rig. I'm reining in that fine line. So if I had this week worth of training, I have no doubt that I would have reined that in even tighter. Mm-hmm. But I guess I might as well give everyone else a chance. So,
well, it's just one of those things. At this point, you're showing up and you're just going to do the best you can, which in some ways is easier than coming in with expectations of like, okay, I'm just going to do what I'm supposed to do, and let's see where the chips fall, kind of thing. Which, in some ways, it could be a benefit for you.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good way of looking at it. For me, it's this is a pretty big portion of my career. This is the largest I've ever been in my career, and so all of the pressure for me is coming from the opportunity to form my future as an athlete and an individual. That's where the pressure is coming from. It's not from wanting to win.
What do you mean by that? The opportunity to form your future?
So I have opportunity to make sponsor income and, form my future after skiing. Ski racing, it can't be the rest of my life. I'm only going to do it for probably 4 more years,
Sure. So this is setting yourself up, having the resume and also being able to make the money as you're going along from sponsors, which there are great opportunities. I mean, Toyota is one of those sponsors that is put in. I mean, one, you drive a Toyota now, right? I mean, drive a Prius, is that right?
Yeah, and a Tundra.
And a Tundra, okay.
Yes.
Okay. Because at first I had seen a Prius back in the day. Did you get a Prius first or not?
Yeah. The first one I got was a Prius.
Okay, and now you've moved to Tundra.
Chris, I've always wanted a Prius. I was very, very happy when I got the Prius, and a lot of people tease me about it, but man, I get 76 miles per gallon and I've never been happier.
It's great. Yeah.
Yeah,
Especially as gas prices continue to go up, right?
exactly.
This rig, is this, so Takimori, one of your competitors, had a fair amount of input into creating this rig, didn't he? And this started a
No,
while ago, right? Or is
no,
this
no, he
something
didn't.
unique to what you're doing?
This is something unique to what I'm doing. So Takimori was the original with Toyota Japan to develop this rig in Toyota Japan. Um, he was one of the first to develop a sit ski. This one is developed by Toyota Racing Development out of North Carolina. So this is it's developed a bit different. It's still developed by Toyota, but it is 100% made in America. 100% developed in America. Johnny Floyd and Trish, I forgot her last name, engineered it. They're like the NASCAR engineers. They're the real deals. They're super cool people. I felt very small when I went down there to first test out this rig and to see it. Just being in their shop and seeing these people, it didn't make me feel that I had earned being on the level of which I am yet. That's I don't know if I guess it's the best way to put it. I'm really happy to have them behind me and have them caring and looking after me in this monoski, helping to adapt it. They've done a really, really, really good job. And nothing on that thing is cheap.
No.
Yeah.
You don't have any idea what kind of dollar figures we're talking about, do you?
A lot. One machined part is $20,000. So
really? And so
yeah.
these machine parts, these are part of your frame. So what were the things that you were trying to achieve with this monoski? I mean, you talked about that it's faster than anything else, that it accelerates utilizing the shock. So in a monoski, you have a variety of different things, right? I mean, one, you have the frame. So like torsional stiffness, you want all that pressure, all the angulation, the pressure that you're putting into the ski, you want that all to go into the ski as opposed to dissipating in your frame. The shock is your contact with the ground, the way that it fits, the weight. What were the things that you were looking for that make this better than other ones?
What I was looking for when I first got in it was I was looking for comfort and consistency. So I already know that I'm fast, but I needed a ski that I could control. And it is definitely more comfortable and definitely more consistent than anything else I've ever skied in. It certainly manages and handles a lot of the bumps very well when you're moving over them, especially at high speeds. I've never had a bucket that I could sit in that's so comfortable ever before in my life. So that is very
that's
exciting.
The actual seat part of it you're talking about.
Yeah, the actual seat part of it.
Wow. Okay. So that it's kind of interesting because you're talking about the comfort and the consistency, but prior to this, you were talking about that it's really fast, but you need to be able to control it.
So with comfort and consistency, I always believed that I would be able to control it, and it is very fast. So there's the fine line there, and that's why I'm able to rein it in. I think I'm able to get used to skiing on it so quickly is because there's the comfort and the consistency on one side, and then there's the speed and danger on the other, I suppose. The comfort and consistency kind of cancel the other one out, but I still need to learn that fine line of how fast I can go while still controlling it.
And part of that is that this has been 1 year that you've been in this ski, right? So you're still
Yeah.
getting to know its idiosyncrasies in some ways.
100%, man. A little bit more time on the rig, and I would definitely be faster. But I don't have a choice, so I'm going for it. That's what it comes down to. And Toyota's made the pledge to be a movement company, and that's kind of where this whole thing comes from, is from the fact that they want to get people moving. They want movement to happen, and they're dedicated to making it happen for people of all types and in all situations. And the Toyota Racing Development is dedicated to making movement happen in the fastest way possible. And that's where this monoski, and that's where I come in. They said, let's give you freedom, let's give you movement, and let's put you here, and let's give you the best opportunity you can to win. And I said, all right, I'll be your test dummy. Let's make it happen.
Is anybody else racing in this monoski?
Lori Stevens is.
So Lori is the only one. So it's only the two of you from the US who are racing in this Toyota Racing monoski.
That's right. TRD monoski.
And can you give us any like specs on this that are different? Like, is the weight different? Is the stiffness different? Those kinds of things.
Let me tell you the most simple thing. I think it is over-engineered to the hilt.
Over-engineered meaning it's not going to break. Okay.
Yeah. And that is something that is very comforting. Not just that, but to give you an example, the shock that sits on it, I probably move 2 to 1 on this shock due to the way that it's engineered compared to any other sit skis. Any other sit skis on the market. The way that it's engineered, my body and butt in this rig move like 2 inches for every 1 inch that it moves on the shock. So there's definitely a higher compression ratio, which keeps first of all, it keeps me able to absorb bumps a lot better. I just flow over them, and it's very comfortable. That's that's really what it comes down to. I don't feel bumps hardly at all. Yet my shock settings that I had in my other previous rig, they took them in and they analyzed the entire shock curvature and then copied that over to this one. But I have twice as much motion through this shock, through my body with it. So that's pretty cool.
So I'm not sure if I understand that exactly. So because we talk about with the shock that we have the travel of the shock, and that's a finite number, right? That usually 3.5, 4 inches, something like that of travel. But it sounds like you're getting additional movement that is not necessarily related to compression of the shock. Is that what you're saying?
No. So when they engineered this shock, or this monoski, and they installed the shock, they put it horizontal, not vertical. So if you were to think of shocks being vertical, you're only able to move 4 inches down on this shock. They put it horizontal, and some of the gear ratios that are in this sit ski, as I compress my body, if I move down 4 inches on my body or through the rig, I'm only moving about 2 inches down through the shock.
So as a result of it being placed horizontally, it's affording you a greater, effectively greater travel through your body, but the shock is still it can only move as far as it can move, right? So the horizontal
Exactly.
placement is what is allowing you to absorb bumps and feel bumps less. One of the biggest problems for a monoskier is that we really have just the shock, where a standing skier has knees, hips, and ankles. So they have considerably more travel. So effectively what this is doing is increasing your ability to absorb those bumps with the same shock. Just the placement of the shock is creating the difference.
The engineering of the rig is what's creating the difference. So there's that, and then there's the comfort of sitting in the sit ski.
How about the feeling of getting onto the edge? One of the biggest challenges oftentimes for a monoskier is starting the turn. And what is that like for you in this ski?
Well, it's too easy. It was too easy initially. We did some adjusting to make up for the way that I ski. And it still skis very easy. It does really, really like to get on edge. And that was something that I had to adapt to, because I've never sat in a sit ski so custom made to my body before. There's no free movement in any of the joints. There's no free movement in the bucket. There's no free movement in any portion of this monoski. The most free movement is probably in the binding, where the foot clicks into it.
So effectively, we're talking like no slop really in this.
None whatsoever. Like almost like sitting on a cloud when you're skiing it. She doesn't feel as connected to the snow, even though she is in the sit ski. So it very much feels like you're floating on a cloud. It kind of absorbs and handles everything. And for me, it's been wonderful.
So you like that feeling? I mean, you're sitting on a cloud. It's comfortable. It's a smoother ride than you're used to. Does that change the input that you get in terms of your ski on the snow?
No,
Okay.
it doesn't. Yeah, no, it's definitely way better, because like I said, it feels like I'm on a cloud, but the ski turns right away. There's no wasted movement. There's no wasted movement in my body when it translates to the ski.
And from what you were saying before, it sounded like you were saying that initially it turned too easily. That like it was almost
Yeah.
twitchy, right? So this is and especially when you're talking about in a downhill where you're going 60, 70 miles an hour and you're going straight, you don't necessarily want the ski to be twitchy. How have you managed that feeling, or what have you done to make it feel like the ski wants to go straight as opposed to wanting to turn?
I did the same thing I did in the test ski. I moved it back. I moved it back onto the tail.
Move the ski back further. Okay.
So I brought my center. Yeah. What I did was I brought my center of gravity in the ski more onto the heel piece.
Yep.
And so what that did was that brought the pressure off the tip. So I move forward onto the tip to initiate it, and it hooks up and goes no problem. And that's it. That's literally all I did. That helped me to control the turnability of this rig for sure.
Right, exactly. Now, looking at world championships, one of the things that to my eye you did differently in the actual Super G versus and downhill to a certain extent as well, versus the run of Super G that you won in the combined, was you've moved your center of mass back, but at the same time, you looked so much stronger on that steep pitch in the super combined Super G, when you were projecting your upper body down the hill, as opposed to kind of getting into that position where your body was back as well. So the ski was back and the body was back. Is that one of the things that you're thinking about?
That's one of those things that I was feeling out and fine tuning there. I was also working on a few different shock adjustments. I had blown a few shocks in this rig, and once we had switched it out and we had gotten to some proper adjustments, it was handling quite a bit better. And the crazy thing is, and I've never had this before, is that I can race on this rig whether the shock's blown or not, like comfortably and safely. Like I can race on it. It's just not as fast. And when you train on it to learn to compensate for the speed managing a certain way.
And are these the Toyota people who are helping you, the Toyota racing people who are helping you to do these shock adjustments, or are these your coaches, or who's doing that with you?
Toyota. They
Okay.
sent me a shock curve ratio.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know like what everything on this shock does when I move it. And it changes in the shock curve. Like I can go into my computer or whatever, I can ask them what this does, and it changes the curve a certain way. And that way I know what I'm looking for in the sensation that I'm looking for.
So they're sending you this information, but they're not actually on the hill with you.
Yes. Well, they were at one point.
Okay.
They came out and they had that thing hooked up with all kinds of different mechanical haikus and whatnots. I have no idea what they are, but it was pretty cool. And they could tell me all the little different idiosyncrasies of what I was doing and where the apex of my turn was, where I have a tendency to pressure my turn, what my shock does when I pressure my turn, all kinds of different things. So that was pretty cool. It gave me a good advantage over my competition, I feel like.
Where did that happen? Where were they when they were doing that testing?
That was in Switzerland, in fall time.
Right. So this was when you were in Zermatt. Is that where you guys were?
Mount Hood, Oregon was where they first started with the testing. And then Saas-Fee, Switzerland was where they ended it.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Saas-Fee. Yeah, and Mount Hood. So this is really sort of like pre-season kind of, you're doing your training, but you're not into your competition yet. So they were there for the training part.
Exactly. This was when I first switched skis.
Has Lori had the same kind of response to this ski that you have, the skiing on a cloud and that kind of thing?
No, she doesn't seem to have the same positive output as what I do, but her skiing has positive output. So it's tough. You're going to have to talk to her about that.
Okay. I didn't know if you guys are talking amongst yourselves going, hey, I'm feeling this. Are you feeling this? Or those kinds of things, if you're going back and forth.
A little bit, kind of, but the way I do things is very different than the way she does things. We really honestly couldn't be more polar opposites when it comes to this type of thing. So
right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Which makes sense. And that's, and it's also, yeah, new equipment sometimes is one of those things that some people gravitate toward, and other people it takes them a long time. And then you get the one thing that kind of makes it all make sense or something. But sometimes
Yeah.
that takes a little while.
Yeah. Lori, she seems to have mixed reviews. She does really, really well sometimes, and then other times she just feels uncomfortable. So,
and for you, are there certain conditions that are better where you know, is it soft snow? Is it hard snow? Is it bumpy snow? Are the things that you think, okay, now I have a real advantage, or now is when I feel really most comfortable on this rig?
firm snow. I would say definitely firm snow. Sometimes salted firm snow, but for me, firm snow is the best. Like just a hard, grippy, firm snow. I'm able to move the rig around and do what I need it to do, and that's primarily in Super G and GS. And in downhill, grippy and soft works. Anything that I can really set an edge into and just hold an edge, man. I really like downhill. Going straight from edge to edge is my peas and carrots. It's my butterballs. I really like it.
Right. That thing of just
Yeah.
arc to arc to arc, just riding that clean ski the whole way along.
Yeah.
How about
that's my thing.
it's your thing, right? But you will run the super combined in China, is that true?
Yeah. And honestly, if I go out and I do well in the downhill, the Super G and the GS, or I do well in 2 out of 3, then I'll give someone who's maybe more of a slalom skier, who's coming into the games, you know?
Okay, so you're not,
Yeah.
because slalom's not exactly, I mean, not that you ski slalom fine, but it sounds like it's not really your greatest interest to ski slalom.
It's not my greatest interest to ski slalom. I'm fast at slalom, and it's always tough for me because I'm a good slalom skier. But I don't like hitting my head repeatedly on slalom gates. It gives me a headache, and it's not that fun. Yeah, that's really all there is to it.
Well, and for people who are listening, the reason that he's hitting his head is that in a monoski, you don't really have anything to protect yourself. You are, you know, with a standing skier, they have their hands to clear the gate, where in a monoski, if you're making a good turn, you don't really have that ability. I mean, short of like Pedersen is a guy who clears it with his outrigger, and he does a really good job of clearing it with the outrigger and maintaining the turn, which can be really challenging for a lot of other people to maintain the turn and clear that gate. So this is why you get hit in the head sometimes, because your head is the only thing the only thing that come in contact with the gate.
Yep, it really is. And I've recently started cross blocking a lot as well. The problem is there's a factor issue there. Like when you have he's an 11, and so he's able to cross block the gates and moving at a slower pace.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to get a better factor. Being a 12-1 or a 12-2, the rate at which we have to move is quite a bit faster, and I'm just not willing to train myself to cross block that fast yet. I'm more of a downhill skier.
Yeah.
But I can cross block a course, and maybe you'll get a chance to see it at the games.
Okay, well, maybe we will. What about that competition? We mentioned Jesper. Urine Capture is another one. Di Silvestro. I mean, there's some. You guys have all 4 of you won runs at the World Championships. What are you looking at in terms of the competition?
Well, man, Jeroen and Jesper are both very consistent and both very fast. And they've been doing this since they were like 3 years old. And I feel like that plays a really good advantage into their hands in a lot of these different situations, because I broke my back, when I was 13 and didn't start racing until I was 16. So I have a little bit of a disadvantage, but where I make up for that is my willingness to go. And I think where Di Silvestro make up for that is our willingness to go and our consistency. So Jesper and Jeroen, when they're competing with each other, one of them kind of ends up messing up or having an issue a lot of the times, because they're really heavily competing with each other. And then Di Silvestro and I are oftentimes able to sneak in there. I feel like that's kind of where the advantage is staying consistent, letting their competitive nature beat themselves. They're good. It's really a toss of the die. The only thing I have a solid chance of beating everyone in is downhill. That's my main event. As far as it comes to Super G and GS, man, it is an all-out brawl.
It's an all-out brawl. I mean, I looked at Kampschur in the World Championships, in the Super G at the World Championships. He actually had the 12th fastest raw time of the day among the men, which was amazing. So it was only LW68s and LW4s that beat him. That was some amazing speed.
Yeah, he arced it from top to bottom. But again, the thing is when he's arcing it from top to bottom like that, he can't stay in control most of the time.
It's the big risk, and we saw that the next day, right, in the Super G portion of the.
Not just the next day, but we saw it in RA as well.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. If you're crashing 2 out of 3, then that is definitely leaving an open area for me to win.
Right, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So I've found that fine line of where I need to compete at, and he's still discovering that fine line in speed. He's very much a tech racer, very much a slalom and GS racer. Kampschur is the best GS skier in the world without a doubt. He has beat Jesper. He has beat everyone. He is the fastest, most consistent GS skier in the world, but he's still trying to find that fine line in speed. When and where do you take a little bit of heat off so that you can control the rest of the course? Once he figures that out, the rest of the world's going to be in trouble. But right now, he's still trying to find that fine line, and he's still crashing, 2 out of 3 races because of it.
So that's Kampschur that you're talking about, who has not found the fine line yet.
Exactly. That's Kampschur, the double amputee from the Netherlands.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Jesper's quick and consistent with everything he does. Man, I've played ping pong against this kid, and he is just consistent. Like he doesn't do, like, I'll be sitting there like throwing crazy spins and stuff at him, and I'll score points, but every time he just bop, 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 bop. And like, that's the same way with his skiing. He's not like super fast in any single spot, but he's just consistent the entire way. And when you're consistently quick in ski racing, you're consistently the fastest in the world.
Yeah. So does it feel like that sometimes in skiing, where you are playing against the wall kind of thing, where you're playing ping pong against, where you fold the table up, and you're playing against the other side of the table? It just keeps coming back to you.
Yeah. It definitely does with these kids, just because they're quick and consistent, and they're good in just about every different situation. But Rene and I definitely always have a chance of so we beat them. It's just we're just not as consistent. They've been doing it for so long. When they go out and they go down a slalom course or they go down a GS course, yeah, we can go out and we can beat them by a few tenths. But then that next run, they're going to have the same run. Like they're going to be just as fast as they were the run before. And if I'm 4 tenths slower, I lose. They're just consistently fast all the time. And so that's where I'm lacking in my technical skills. But if I can put 2 runs together, I'll win.
Exactly. Yeah, because you do have that speed.
Yeah, I have the speed. It's not that I can't beat them. It's just that I need to do it twice.
In GS, you need to do it twice. In downhill, Super G, you need to do it once per race.
Exactly, and that's why it's my forte.
What about anybody else in the world? Because you haven't seen much of the Japanese skiers. They were at some of the early World Cups, but you haven't seen much of them, and they've been pretty strong throughout the years as well.
They're always consistent fast racers, and they're always going to throw down in speed. But right now it's a big question mark on whether they even get a chance to train it or not, and COVID has set them back a lot. So we haven't seen much of a showing from them.
And they've had some really limited races where, small fields where, like the women's field at some of their equivalent of NORAM national level races, they didn't even have enough women to have a penalty. They only had 4 women. And I think the men only had 5 or 6 in the race.
Yeah. So they're having their own troubles and their own difficulties. And that's where COVID's setting, everyone behind. Last season, last World Cup season, we didn't have a chance to travel or compete. Like it was, like I said, I haven't been in this is the first year I've been in the downhill since PyeongChang or Sochi, Sakhalin, Russia, just after PyeongChang.
Right, exactly. And that affects you. It's just one of those things that downhill, you can't replicate downhill. You don't get a chance to go that fast.
You can't.
You're running downhill.
Yeah. And the other countries, Jesper, Jeroen, these guys, they've had a chance to catch up to me and my technical abilities in downhill because of that. Because I haven't had a chance to race it or train it, and they've been racing and training against each other. They're just constantly getting better. Constantly. They're
constantly getting better, but you are a battler though. This is a big part of who you are, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. It makes it more fun. Like I said before, I would rather a hard fought silver medal than an easy gold any day.
Yeah.
But I'm always going to go for gold, and that makes it that much sweeter, I think.
It is. So when do you end up leaving to go? How does this process work until you get into effectively downhill training and then the race?
Tomorrow morning we leave for LA. We have a 3-day quarantine with the Team USA and USOPC staff before departing over to China. And we have, I think, a 38-hour, 36-hour travel day. It is very, very long day. We travel across the international date line in 16 different time zones, arrive in China, take a bus to the village. We have to go through a lot of different safety procedures with COVID and quarantine and all kinds of stuff. And then when we arrive there, we have a few more days, I think 2 or 3 more days. We have to test negative twice within a 72-hour period. We test negative twice in America, and then we have to test negative 3 times in America, and then we have to test negative twice in China. And then we get on snow and we start training and competing. So I'm looking at hopefully being on snow in China on the 29th. And
on the first.
The first, maybe?
Yeah,
the first.
28 days, right? In
Yeah.
February.
28. Sorry, thank you. On the first. I was just counting the days in my head currently. So
yeah,
yes.
no, it's that February throws you a curveball.
Yeah. So the first, and that'll give us 3 days of training to prepare before downhill training starts on the 4th, and then the race on the 5th.
So 3 days of training, but 3 days of downhill training. So you're actually, which is effectively like running a race. It's not like you're.
Yeah.
Okay.
There will be two different, so the way I understand it is there will be 2 different hills with 2 different courses set up respectively, one for speed training and then one for tech training. And they will shift between those while we're there.
While you're there. And so would you do that when you're getting ready for the downhill on the 4th? Would you actually go and run some tech, or?
No, I wouldn't run tech.
Okay. That's what I was wondering.
I'd run speed. Maybe the first day there I would run tech just to kind of get the initiation and get the feel. And the next 2 days I would run maybe Super G before heading into the downhill, or hopefully downhill. But a lot of countries, especially when you're sharing courses set up on a respective slope specifically for that, have issues oftentimes running downhill because they feel it's dangerous. So the good agreement most people come to is open Super G. And I will run an open Super G on my downhill ski because I don't care.
Okay, fair enough. It will be, so that for you will be almost 2 weeks off snow when you get on snow on the first, right? So that's 13 days.
I've been off snow 5 days, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 days.
You've been off snow 11 days already?
No, 5 days.
5 days, right. So it was Wednesday of last week, right? So 5 days now.
My head really
Wednesday will be a week. Right. So it'll end up being 13 days. Yeah. So that's, I mean, there's going to be a little part of that of like, okay, let's get the, get the rust off a little bit here and also get familiar with the conditions a little bit, which look like they're a little bit different over in Beijing too.
Yeah, the big thing for me is going to be learning the snow conditions and how to manage my ski and myself in these snow conditions, and also making sure to adjust my shock accordingly.
Right. Yeah, and that will be something that you will do yourself. There are none of the Toyota racing people who are going over for this event, right?
Yep, it's me.
Okay, cool.
They did all the customization and all the they buffed my rig out, switched out all the squeaky parts, and did some maintenance to it here recently, so it's ready to go.
Okay. Well, that's awesome. I mean, this is going to be really interesting to see. What's the anticipation level like for you?
Well, like we talked about a little bit earlier, for me, the expectations and going into this I'm just anticipating going out and doing my best. I don't anticipate a victory. I don't anticipate a loss. I anticipate going out and giving it my best in competition. It's never about winning. It's about racing. For me, I would really love to put down a medal this games, just to keep my future solidified as an athlete, because right now I'm building this bed and breakfast, and it's helping me to build my future. And without that, building my future will be a lot more difficult. So So that's all there is to it. I'm going to go out and I'm just going to do my best.
Is the B&B open now?
Yep, sure is. Yep.
And what's the name of it again?
Golden Standard B&B.
Golden Standard B&B in.
Yeah.
And is it Palmer, Alaska?
Yeah, it's in Palmer, Alaska.
All right. Golden Standard B&B.
Yeah.
Palmer, Alaska. Well, we will, Andrew, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. I'm excited to watch you. I'm excited to see what you throw down. I think, it's interesting that you say just a matter of giving your best. And I don't think that that's something that I don't think that you're often disappointed in yourself. I think that you're often a guy who gets out there and gives your best. Is that fair to say?
I would say that is fair to say, and that is accurate. I don't think I'm ever really disappointed in my racing. Occasionally I am, but typically I'm not. And if like I said before, I set my goals and I'm goal orientated from the top to the bottom. If I follow those goals, when I get to the bottom, I'm happy with myself.
It's all you can hope for. You can make your racing really, really complex if you want to, or you can simplify it, which generally gets your best results. So I think you're going in the right direction.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Hey, thanks a ton. I really appreciate you joining us here, and we will look forward to watching you. For all of you who've had a chance to listen, please, the greatest gift you can give us is to tell your friends to tune in. Follow us, like us. This will be a traditional podcast that you can listen to and share around. So thank you very much. We'll have another great guest next week. So thanks a ton. Really appreciate it.